Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.
Welcome back to the Gen X Juggler podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I can't believe we're already on episode 4. Time flies when you're having fun. I want to take a minute to thank all of you who are listening. I'm humbled and so grateful that you're choosing to spend your time with me. It means the world, truly. To my new friend who's listening in Germany, I'm very excited you found the Gen X Juggler podcast. Welcome. This week, I'm joined by one of my oldest and dearest friends. I know you will love her as much as I do. Before I introduce her, let's do the legal stuff. The information presented in this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice in any field, including legal, medical, financial, or mental health. Always consult a qualified professional regarding your situation. The views expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and/or producers. I met my friend Debbie when I was 8 and she was 7. It was my first day in a new school. We were in the gym for PE, having free time, and I knew no one. All of a sudden, I heard someone call my name. I turned around, wondering who in the world it could possibly be, and noticed they were calling someone else. 2 Debbies? Could this be? Just to be sure, I went up to her and asked her name. She said it was Debbie, and I said, "Mine too." We walked off holding hands and have been close friends ever since. Even though Debbie is a year younger than I am, I always say I want to be her when I grow up. She's a genuine friend, mature in her faith, and a blessing to all who know her. I know she'll be a blessing to you as well. And now, here's Debbie. Debbie, I am so glad that you're with me on the podcast today. This is a treat.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
We have known each other for a really long time. Debbie and I grew up together. We met 41 years ago. And like the Energizer Bunny, we're still going.
That's right. Pick up where we left off every time we get together, which is awesome.
We sure do. Those are the best kinds of friends where you can
Yes.
live your busy lives for months and months and then have a phone conversation that it feels like you've been talking every day.
41-year-long conversation.
You and I always say the word feral, like the feral kids of the 80s or whatever, but we had
Yeah.
good parents who made sure we were safe and good, but they gave us some freedom and we used it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's right. Country kids being out on the farm. I tell you, some of the stuff that we got into, I couldn't even imagine my kids considering getting into, and
I know.
we knew where the rattlesnake dens were on the farm. And
Yep.
we would get on the four-wheeler and be gone until it ran out of gas. And then we'd leave it where it was. Walk home.
So true. Yeah, the country kid experience is a whole different ballgame. I say the world was our playground. People are like, "Well, what do? You don't have a movie theater right there?" I'm like, you have no idea."
Yeah, there was a lot to
Yes.
keep us going.
I have ridden my horse to your house.
That is true. I remember riding bareback and barefoot. What?
Yes.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. Totally feral and loved it.
Yes, very much so.
All of our kids have a different experience. I just couldn't imagine in this day and time letting my kids run quite as free as we did. But oh, it was good back when we could.
It's funny that how much time you spent at our house growing up, but when we weren't together, we would still call each other on those corded phones. And of course, I had siblings all over the place, and so it was always loud at my house. And so I would try to make the phone reach all the way to the bathroom, right? So that you've got the cord that only goes so far, and then you've got the twisty cord that only goes so much further. And so you're like, okay, hang on, let me get in here.
And on my end, I was an only child, so I had all the space in the world, it felt like, to talk on the phone or whatever in my room. But there was always that moment where you would hear the phone line open up and you'd know that somebody was on the other end. Right. And then there'd be a mom voice, "Girls, We have things to do. You can talk tomorrow. Like, our kids have no idea
No,
what life was
no.
like then. I was thinking the other day that my childhood that I absolutely adored would feel like a dystopic nightmare if Eileen had to live it. Like, drinking from a garden hose, corded phones where people could pick up and listen to you.
Having to share your phone with somebody else and
Oh
a
my
busy
gosh,
signal. Can you
a
imagine?
busy signal. Wow, I haven't heard one of those in so long.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So, well, like I said, I'm glad you're here and you do have a busy life. You are the perfect guest on Gen X Juggler.
I, am a mom of 2 that I homeschool, and my husband and I have our own business, multiple businesses, and we do a lot of volunteering with church and with a local nonprofit organization, so pretty much keeps us hopping all the time.
That is enough to keep you busy. And then your husband's mother lives about an hour away.
Oh, yes. Mhm. She's in her 80s, and she's gotten to the point where she doesn't really wanna go to doctor's appointments by herself, and so I, tend to go up there fairly regularly to go with her to her appointments. She doesn't get on the highway anymore, and so if she's gonna come down here, one of us has to go get her. She and I do have a great relationship. She's very sensitive about our schedule. She's very aware, and so she'll call me and say, "Hey, I really need to set up an appointment. What days work for you?" Thankfully, we now have an 18-year-old who can drive up there and pick her up.
Yeah, that's helpful when the teens start to drive. It takes a little bit off your plate.
Absolutely.
What is a typical day in your life? Is there a typical day?
So I am later in life diagnosed with ADHD. So have all of these terrible habits that were put into place before my diagnosis. So that is one of those things that affects everything, which is part of why a day doesn't look typical. But thankfully, I'm married to a neurotypical husband who has helped me establish a good morning routine.
Oh, that's
So
good.
we both are very committed to spending the first part of our day with the Lord. So I get up before anybody else does, and I go in the den and I spend time in prayer, spend time in the Word, and any Bible study that I'm working on. And really, I can't get through my day if I don't do those things first thing.
What do you feel like that time gives you to help you get through the rest of the day?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably just a calm, kind of a grounding for the day. So it kind of helps me go into my day knowing that I'm not doing any of this on my own. I have the Lord with me through all of this. So it's just a good helpful reminder. So,
Oh, yeah. That matters so much to feel undergirded by something carrying you through all
absolutely.
of the things you have to do during the day. So you've established a morning routine with your family where you
Yeah.
spend time with the Lord every morning, and then your day takes off
Yeah,
after that?
right. So, Sundays there's getting to church to serve early. 4 out of the 5 weekdays, we'll do some schoolwork. My youngest one and I will do school. And my oldest, he's old enough that he just does his own thing, and I just make sure that he's staying on top of it. It can vary on when we get started.
Back when we were kids, homeschooling was rare. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
everybody just went to school, and now we have all these options, and you guys have chosen to homeschool, and that's intriguing to a lot of people. Like, how does that work? Could I ever?
Well, Drew, my husband, when we were dating, he said, "I want my kids homeschooled." And so, at first, I was like, "What?" And so, it took a while. We dated for a couple of years. We were married for 9 years before we had kids, and so by then I was like, "Okay, I get this. It's a lot more common."
Yeah.
So, really by the time I started homeschooling, it was so established that I could pick from a wide variety of styles of homeschooling and could come up with what worked best for my kids. I mean, both of my boys, I have homeschooled them very different one to the other. They are very different boys and needed attention in different areas.
That's so neat that that's something that you can do as a homeschooled parent.
Yeah, especially homeschooling them one at a time. But, I know a lot of people who have 5 kids and who they're all homeschooling at the same time and they can
Wow.
each to their strengths. I know. I don't think I could do that, but that's why God didn't give me 5 kids.
Same. You're a good example as to the different stages of life that we Gen Xers find ourselves in at this stage of the game. Some of us are already empty nesters, some of us are already grandparents, some of us are just busy taking care of our elderly parents, and you even have a young child at home, which a lot
Yeah.
of us have gotten past the young child stage. So how old is your youngest?
He's 10. We got started late in the first place, and then God gave us a pretty good sized gap, 18 to 10. That was God's gap, not ours. So, yeah. But that 10-year-old keeps us on our toes. So, yeah, so there's the homeschooling part, and then there's managing a business with my husband while my kids are at home. So we're all at home all the time, which in itself has its own dynamic.
Yes. Do you feel like it's beneficial, even though I'm sure it comes with challenges?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was back in a corporate job for about 9 months, and I didn't like it. He was even out of the country for a month, and I was like, no. I've gotten so used to him being at home, um, him being involved in whatever we have going on, that it was really hard, so I've grown used to him being here. That's part of what I dread about our oldest leaving, and I say that, I know it's still a little ways away, but still, it's like we have a great dynamic. I mean, we have lunch together every day, all 4 of
Wow.
us. Well, I say every day that we can, so
Yes.
probably, um, 4 to 5 days a week, we're all here, and, we'll sit down and have lunch together. It's kind of a neat thing, which it's just, a totally different dynamic than, it would be otherwise.
That's really cool that you get to live your lives together like that every day. So, how do you handle the homeschooling and the business? Do they happen at the same time? Do you set a schedule? We'll do this at this time and this at that time.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I can usually get pretty much everything in 2 hours for school. We're not having to take all these breaks for lunch or for art class or for recess. I mean, he has the rest of the day to do recess or to do art or to get creative. And so, we spend our 2 hours on the core subjects, and I make sure that there is enough variety within the day to do the other things that where I don't have to be hands-on. So I try, after lunch, that's the time where I'll spend doing whatever I need to be doing for work. And then usually evenings, at least one of us isn't here for one reason or another. That's probably part of why we like to have lunch together, is because our evenings are busy with other things, serving activities. And like the month of January that just passed, we lost from sickness. Somebody in our house was sick the entire month of January, but we all had the same thing over a period of time. So,
I'm so sorry that January was just a down month for y'all.
well, one of the fun things that came out of it was My husband and I were both sitting on the couch, couldn't do a whole lot. So he was like, I'm going to design some t shirts. And I said, okay, you design them and I'll post them. So
Yeah,
we started a whole nother business in the middle of being sick.
I have seen this business and I like it. Would you like to share a little bit about that since it's your most recent upstart?
Absolutely. I would love to. It's called trueshirts.shop, or that's the website, is trueshirts.shop. My husband liked the idea of being able to wear shirts that can start a conversation. One of the shirts, it has a cross on it. It says the altar verse. Thinking about how people have the metaverse, right? They believe there's
Yeah.
all these different universes, but we believe that the universe is, we come to the altar, right? And
Mhm.
we bring a sacrifice of praise to the house of the Lord. And so that is our universe, is at the altar. And then there's another one with a cross that says meta narrative. And that one's a lot harder for people to get. He had to explain it to me so that I could write a description about it.
When I saw it, I wasn't sure exactly either. I've been meaning to ask.
Yeah. The definition of meta narrative is a reason for the existence of something. So the
Yeah.
Bible's meta narrative is Jesus. So the whole Old Testament points to the coming Messiah, and the whole New Testament is about Jesus, the Messiah. The narrative of the Bible is that cross. So
My favorite that I am gonna order, and I can't remember exactly what it said, I should have pulled it up, but it's a phrase.
everything's going according to God.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything's going according to God. I like that
Yeah.
one, and that's the one I'm gonna order.
Yeah.
Instead of
That's
according to plan, because man makes plans and God laughs. So,
that's right.
as we
Yes,
jugglers know all too well.
absolutely.
So one more time, where can people go to check out these shirts?
True shirts dot shop.
And I
SHOP.
will shop, and I will do my best to link it in the description of this podcast. If you listened to the podcast that was released last week, you know that technology and I are still in a bit of a struggle on occasion, but I'll get it done. If I can't do it, I'll find someone who can. That's how I roll.
It's awesome.
I think it is evident that you are a busy, busy woman and that you do it well. But you mentioned something to me before we actually got on the podcast that I think it would be cool to talk about, because I know I definitely feel this way, and so you're definitely not alone in that, but having so much to do and then feeling like you're not doing any of it well enough. I think it's a problem for most of us that have a lot going on in life these days.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when I'm trying to compare myself to these really good homeschool moms, or these people who have a very successful home business, or these people who are always available for their parents or in-laws, or seem to have a perfect relationship with the Lord, all of those things, and where I just feel like I'm just skating along, if I'm able to remember to remind my kid to brush his teeth, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that's a really, really good day. That's like
Yeah.
I am on top of things. But most of the time it does feel like I just got enough done, or I'm just good enough at this that I can pass. But it's not, I'm not going to be exceeding expectations on any of these check boxes. So,
Yeah, I think probably even those people that we look at that we think, "Oh, I'll never be her. She's got it all together." We don't see she's probably having the same exact thoughts that we do.
yes,
And
absolutely. And and I have to remind myself of that often.
yeah.
And I want to come across as being all put together. you know?
Oh, don't we
And
all? Yeah.
and so I'm sure that they're kinda living the same way, right? That they're like, "Oh, yeah, she's got it all together."
Yeah.
Where I feel like in situations where I'm more willing to be honest about my struggles, people can relate to me a whole lot more.
When you take the responsibility of looking like you've got it all together or presenting a certain way off of your shoulders, it really does lighten the load. One of my favorite things is going to someone's house who is willing to let me in the midst of their day and the laundry they need to fold that's still on the table or whatever that they're working on. Like, that makes me feel like, "Oh, yeah, we're all people and it's all good."
Yes.
And you love
Yeah.
me enough to let me into your chaos. Like, if I was to show up at your door in pajama bottoms and carrying a coffee cup going, "Can we have coffee?" You'd be like, "Come on in. We need to offer each other that too. Just like, this is my real life and you're welcome in it. Just come on in and let's enjoy each other's company and not feel like I have to run around the house when the doorbell rings before I answer it, making things
Yeah.
perfect."
I had a friend who had I think she had a sign on her door or something that said, "If you're here to see me, come on in. If you're here to see my house, you're not welcome." You know?
Oh, yeah.
When you have people coming over, they're not there to judge I would hope. They're not there to
Yeah.
judge, the cobwebs that are in the corner or the
Right.
shelves that haven't been dusted in a few months or, the
Right.
laundry basket that's sitting there with who knows how many clothes.
Right. I know. The school
Yeah,
books just laying around that were just
yeah,
used.
mhm.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
a dining table that hasn't been used for dinner in months.
Been been used for work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been used for work or craft projects or school, but
Oh,
dinner?
yeah.
No. That happens in the
Oh,
den
yeah.
in front of the TV.
Yeah, that's why it's called the den, because it's for dinner.
That's right. I am so using that.
So I think what we can definitely all agree on is none of us have it all together, and we all need to rely on each other, and we all have parts of life that still need to be worked out.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think one of my biggest struggles right now is us having our own business and, um, that we
Mm.
are really in a place where we have to rely on the Lord for our provision, which is where we all should be, but it's just so much more apparent when we are in the midst of the struggle, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Sometimes when things are easy, we forget where we need to lean and where we need
Right.
to look.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Our struggles make us better people, better human beings, right? I think that if we
Yes.
were all had an easy life, um, that we would not be as grateful for our Savior, that we would not be as grateful for one another to walk through life with. Um,
It's one of those things that we strive for, and we may never completely perfectly get there to be grateful for our struggles. But the truth is, we find out who we are and who God is in the midst of our struggles. And that carries us through to every part of life
yeah,
and makes it better.
absolutely. Mhm. Yeah. And we can look back later and be so grateful for what God's brought us through.
For our listeners who are struggling with comparison, struggling with having so much on their plate that sometimes they feel like they're doing a whole lot of stuff and not doing it well,
Mhm.
just know that you're doing it just as well as the rest of us. We're all in it together, and you're doing just fine. And if you know where to go to your friends to lift you up and to the Lord to lift you up and carry you through all of your difficult times or your even if we're making it more difficult than it needs to be, and things are pretty good, which I know I do a lot.
Me too.
You know, just don't think you have to rely on your own strength all the time. First of all, that's impossible. Second of all, that's unnecessary, and you'll definitely miss a blessing along the way.
That's right, for sure. And know that you're a rock star.
You are a rock star.
Amen, sister.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. Everybody check out, what's the website again?
TrueShirts.shop.
TrueShirts.shop. Go and find you a good, awesome shirt, a conversation starter to wear. Thanks, Debbie. I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.
That does it for this episode of the Gen X Juggler podcast. I hope you feel encouraged by our conversation with Debbie today. Isn't she great? I look forward to our next time together. Until then, friend, let's keep on juggling.
Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you 'cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.